Nigeria's Senate throws out federal government's $29.9 billion borrowing plan. Oil edged up 1 month low. Plus, Sub-Saharan economies urged to raise taxes. Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Bolaji Akinwale. We'll begin with the top story at this hour. The Senate has rejected President Muhammadu Buhari's external borrowing plan of $30 billion for the execution of projects from 2016 to 2018. The upper legislative chamber unanimously rejected President Buhari's plan when it was put to a vote on the floor of the chamber today. Before the vote by the Senate, the President had written to the National Assembly asking them to approve a foreign loan of $29.96 billion to address infrastructure deficit in the country. The presidency had explained that the amount, which is under the government's external borrowing plan, was to be spent on power, railway, roads, education, health, water resources and others. Now let's get to understand what could be the reason behind this development. Bismarck Rewane is the chief executive at the Financial Derivatives Company Limited, and it joins me on the program. Mr. Rewane, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what do you make of this development?
First of all, I think it's a negotiation step. Basically, when the executive send anything to it is subject to negotiation. I think the rejecting it means that the executive has to do more homework and provide additional information. An objection is a request for further information. That's the standard conventional logic. Secondly, there's the debt sustainability principles. And there's also the fact that Nigeria's total debt cannot exceed a particular level. I think at this point, maybe $22 billion. I'm not exactly sure of that. But the reality is that it is not just the debt, nominal debt figure, but the use of proceeds and the effectiveness and the impact of that investment. So I would think that the Senate will be asking the executive to tell us now, tell us what the linkages are, tell us how it's going to ameliorate poverty, tell us how it's going to increase productivity, tell us how it's going to make Nigeria more competitive. These are the issues that I think that are in question. And it's also a proxy battle for other issues that are brewing between the legislature and the executive. I am confident and I'm optimistic that the executive will do some more homework, put some more information out there, and that the legislature will actually go through this and ensure that it's in the interest of all Nigerians that we should borrow, but borrow effectively, borrow optimally so that we don't fall into a debt trap. Because right now, we are spending as much as almost 45 cents in a dollar to service debt because our export earnings have dropped while our import bill is pretty high. So it is important that the borrowing is done and is effective and it is monitored. But more important is that it will not be in the best interest of Nigeria if it is just an obstructionist move by the legislature.
So what's next for the executive? Is it just going back to do some homework, a proper homework now, and coming back to
put more information before the legislature? And basically, it's not just the executive and legislature. We are actually mortgaging the future of Nigeria. That is the children unborn. That is those who are coming 15 years, 20 years from today, when the current executives and the current legislature may not be around. It's important that you don't mortgage them and put them in harm's way, economic harm's way. So that debate must be total. That is, it must be a public debate, both in the public domain, the legislature, the executive, everybody. Because what is happening now is that if we're not careful, if you borrow for the wrong reason, if you borrow for a non-impactful investment, what you're going to be saddled with is servicing that debt and raising money to actually do the right thing. So it has to be done very, very carefully. And I'm sure that the executive has done its homework and will provide this information to satisfy everybody. If everybody is satisfied, because it's all our future and all our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren that are going to be affected and generations yet to come, we must do it right.
All right, thank you so much for your perspectives. Bismarck Rewane, CEO, Financial Derivatives Company Limited.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's take you to the markets. We're looking at how shares in Europe are doing. They're actually slightly higher in morning trade on Tuesday, with investors focusing on another batch of corporate earnings as well as digesting some positive economic data from China. Now, Conrad Busen is DWTV financial correspondent, and he joins me from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange to take a look at how the markets in Europe are faring at this time. Conrad, it's good to have you on the show. Now, the U.S. elections is exactly a week today. However, the FBI investigation into the use of private mail server by Hillary Clinton seems to be rocking the boat. How is this playing out on the markets?
I can tell you, Bulaji, this is a huge source of uncertainty for people on the markets. You know, when people in the financial world try to predict the future, they usually refer to historical data. But as this election in the United States and the campaigns here look like they are very historically unique, the usual instruments and techniques of people on the markets to tell what the outcome of the election might be and its impact on the markets really fail. And this causes high volatility on the markets, high, sometimes erratic ups and downswings of bond prices and equity prices. Will this change the day after the election? I think it will not. The presidential campaigns have shown how divided the United States society really is, how much questions like inequality, race are playing a role. You know, the question whether or not the political system represents the will of the people really is being raised in the United States, and this will continue after the election. And I can tell you, we have this kind of discussion here in Europe as well. So generally speaking, the task of pricing in political risk will be very difficult in the future as well.
Okay, Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, has announced he would not step down